So welcome, AJ. First of all, before we get into everything, we want people at home to know a little bit more about you, the man AJ Fenton. Now, you've been racing motorcycles for a long time, and then sort of worked into kind of going over doing road racing. Tell us a bit about yourself.
So, I come from a racing background. I come from a racing family. My dad raced motorbikes. My grandfather raced motorbikes. I think my uncle raced motorbikes. So it was inevitable that I was going to end up on a motorbike. My first race, I rode at a PB50. I think I was 4 or 5 years old. 1994 was my first race on a PB. I'd done about a year and a half on that. And then I stopped racing bikes. I raced go-karts for a year and a bit. And then I started playing soccer. And then only 2001,
You came back to your senses.
I found another motorbike, thanks to Sherwin. I'm sure you'll remember Sherwin Beretta.
Yeah.
He had a little Italjet that we were messing around on. And between him and my dad, they built me a TZR50, which back then we had Northern Regions Racing. You yourself were one of the big boys that we looked
I had
up
an
to.
RZ50. I wasn't as long as you, okay?
Yeah. And you guys, I remember you yourself, Paul, on the Northern Region 600 Superbike class. And then 2001 I raced the 50. 2002 I raced the 50. 2003 I jumped on a little GP125. And then 2004 all regional racing, a little NSR 250. And then 2005 I rode a 600. And then from the end of 06 upwards, I got the opportunity to go to the UK. I did British Superbike Championship. I rode for a team, Hydrex Honda. Funny enough, that's the team manager from that team runs Top Rack's BMW team now, Sean Muir.
Oh, wow.
So I rode for
You
Sean.
mean his former BMW too? Fair enough.
Yeah, so the Miguel Oliveira's team.
Yeah.
So that was 2006. And then from there, I was in the UK 07, 08. I came back in 2012.
Yeah.
And I did British Superstock 1000, Junior Superstock, which was on a 600 Superstock for Triumph. I worked for the Triumph factory for a while. Then I rode a Yamaha in 2009 in British Supersport. And then I went back to Triumph, and I think I did 2 years on the Triumph. Then I came back to the end of 2012. 2013, I sort of set myself up here to open up a shop and start a little bit of rider training and try and build a future. You can't, not knowing that we were going to do this road racing thing, I tried to get a normal man's job. And 2013, I had the opportunity to go to the Isle of Man, and that was my first year at the TT. And then I was there 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016. 2017, I didn't go. 2018, I went. 2019, I went, and then COVID. Then I missed in 2022, and then I've done 23 to up to now.
And I know your son, the real AJ, is riding bikes now.
Is he still at school?
Yeah, you didn't fetch him. Anyway, you started racing on 50 cc's, and you progressed through the ranks. I started on 50 cc's, but there's a big disconnect these days between the kids of today and sort of kids of even your age, my age. The guys aren't coming through the ranks. There's no interest in motorcycles anymore. And it's sad to see. It affects our business as importers. It affects dealers' businesses. The kids aren't there. Before I turned 16, all I wanted was a license so I could ride a motorbike, because that's what I wanted to do. And I lived most of my life just wishing to race. And, I was lucky enough to do it for a while. But you've been very involved for a while with children and getting them into motorcycling and into racing. And I think that's, for me, it's a very important aspect. It's something that makes you unique. You spend a lot of time with the kids. I know you've been involved with KJ at Red Bull Rookies. You're very involved with the PV50 kids now, getting, these are 4-year-old children that are getting into motorcycling, and those kids are hooked. They will ride forever like we did. What is your whole theory behind giving back? Why is that so important to you?
When I started riding, or when I say we started riding, my whole career, my dad and I have done it. And we didn't know, or we couldn't we couldn't pay experienced people, but we had to learn where and how. And you know, those were the days we raced 50s, like you said, myself, Sean. You know, the classes were strong. I look now, and I've been very fortunate where I've been able to race motorbikes for a long period of time. And there's a lot of riders that were good riders, solid riders, that raced with me, beat me, that aren't riding now. And they're not riding now, maybe if it was money or for whatever their reason be, but they've also gone off the rails a bit. And I've got a son now, he's 8, I think he's 8 years old. He's 8 years old.
Have you proposed yet, by the way?
No. I have, yes, I have.
Okay,
I've
well
done
done.
that part. You know, my son started, I bought him a Pee-wee when he was 2 years old. And more because I just thought it's cool to have one. Then I wasn't really keen on him riding this Pee-wee. And my dad put pressure to say, you know what, teach him to ride this Pee-wee, because the problem we had, we did a track day at Pekisa. And we were standing at the back of the pits. Everyone's been welcome. And far in the distance, this little 4-year-old's running around making friends with, and there was a random kid was there with a Pee-wee. And I could see my son trying to convince this oak to let him ride his bike. And the problem is now, and my dad still said, if he gets on this bike and he doesn't know how to ride it, he's actually going to do more damage and hurt himself. We then went to Midville, and I had a customer, a young kid that I was teaching, and he had a 150. And his dad came to me and said, listen, and I always stopped in there quickly to help the boy and go. And this guy's dad came to me and he said, you know, AJ, my boy's doing one more session and then your son can ride. So I said, what do you mean? Now my son's 5 years old. He says, no, he says he can ride this 150. So I was like, no, man. You know, because he was that amped to ride. So anyway, we taught him to ride. And do I want him to race forever? Well, probably not, because it's a lot of money. You know, rugby boots are cheap though. But at the same time, I look at these kids traveling with KJ. KJ's a youngster. He lost his dad in just after COVID. And he just signed a deal to go overseas. And when I said to his mom, they know nothing about these motorbikes. And I just thought, you know, I've got to help this kid, because he's on the verge of, I can't give him money that I can give him time. And I ended up traveling with him over like the last 2 years. We went to Europe. We went, and he's still there now. He's doing Junior World Championship. There's a good chance he might do a wild card in the World Championship this year. There's a lot happening there, you know, and I get good pleasure in that. I enjoy seeing these kids do well, because I know my first year that I went to British Championship was, I didn't buy that ride. I wasn't given that ride, but I did a test, and the team signed me in that team, and it was, you feel proud. So the fact that these kids and we got Uncle Neil's NSF 100 camp, you know, I go with the kids, and all these little 6-year-old snot pickers want to do is beat you, and they'll come tell you. And when you see them smiling and that they beat you, it's a good thing. So because the kids are starting to, there's a lot of things where these kids decide gender based, or they want to be a werewolf. You know, you got to stop them. And you know what I'm saying. And I'd rather my son say, Dad, I'm a motorbike rider, than say, Dad, I'm a unicorn. So the reality is, why do I help kids? Because we need that. We need that feeder. Now, myself, Clint, like I joke, you and I have the same hairstyle. You know? But my days of, am I going to go to MotoGP? No. Am I going to go to British Superbikes? No. But we need the next people to come through.
Isle of Man, okay? We're actually talking about two things today. It's the Northwest 200, Isle of Man. I mean, just tell us about these races. I mean, for the people out there, I mean, they've heard of Isle of Man, they've heard of Northwest 200. A very quick summary. I mean, how long are these races? They're all on public roads. They're not actual racetracks, you know, like we're used to. And it's another whole ball game.
So it's basically, call it the road racing.
Yeah.
You know, road racing is a separation from your short circuit and your Grand Prix circuit racing. They always say that the road racing was for superbike riders, washed up superbike riders, because it took you out of the limelight and the Hollywood scene of being a superbike rider. And, you know, how can I say, being being a MotoGP rider, and no disrespect to the MotoGP guys, but it's like Formula One versus touring cars.
Yeah.
So road racing it worked out to be cheaper effectively. You don't have to build a racetrack. It's a public road. The Northwest 200 is at one stage there was 5 international road races, and it was the Northwest 200, the Isle of Man TT, Macau Grand Prix, the Ulster Grand Prix, and then they used to use the Manx as the classic TT. And basically you could get away with a lot more. You could be a lot more competitive on the roads because you wouldn't need a R500,000 motorbike, and you wouldn't need, the fun, because you're not riding at that level. You could go there with what you have, and you could be, as long as you're willing to stick it out on the road and make it happen, you could be semi-competitive. And I think the road racing aspect, the Irish are known for it. South Africans are known for rugby. The Irish are known for road racing. They the beer drinking crazy. Some of the racers would drink the whole night and ride the next day. It was just living life at large. So
I don't think beer counts as alcohol there, does it?
no, there it's a herbal remedy for them.
A few sponsors on board here as well, your personal sponsors. So before we start, HJC helmets, Mass Leather, Keaton from Mass over here as well. And that's the thing people don't realize as well. It's not just the bikes and everything. I mean, the kit's got to be proper for races like the Northwest 200 and everything. So, I mean, you're running the airbag suit?
Yeah, for this year we're running the airbag suit. So just to touch base, obviously Paul was chatting now for a couple of minutes, but it's a big effort, and even just seeing tonight, guys, a big thank you to Brad and everyone here at Zeemans for making this evening. I've been nagging for, like you said, for some time, that we need to do some stuff and we can do some marketing. So to have everyone here, thank you. And we talk about the Northwest. We leave next week Friday. I'm riding a CBR 600 there. This will be my 10th year at the TT. I have to look at Rom because she's got the numbers, but it'll be my 10th year going road racing again, and I've only ever ridden a CBR 600, out of all the years I've ridden there. It was something I thought about today. So I'm back on the 600 again. It is the bike to ride around there. It's a lot easier to ride. The chassis, the electronics, and the way it's all come together. So it is. It's a intricate race. I think, if that's the way to put it. It's a bit tricky. Road racing is not everyone's cup of tea, but it does. I want to say it's a unique event. That's the easiest way to put it.
Yeah. Well, look, it's not like riding down or racing down, satellite road.
I touched on Brad Binder earlier. A lot of people give Brad stick.
Yeah.
It's going to be a very, very, very long time before you're going to see another Brad Binder.
Yeah.
I can tell you, as much as people that are uneducated about what's happening, you're not going to see another Brad Binder, and they're going to regret. Because just an interesting fact, I was with KJ at these rounds. We go to these MotoGP rounds, and we were sat with his manager. Do you know one of the biggest things that Red Bull look at in this Red Bull Academy is your following?
Okay.
And the problem we have as South Africans is the negativity works against them as riders because they don't want the negativity. So if you look at the MotoGP class, Dorna or Urta, who's MotoGP, there's a rider, Diego Moreira, on a Honda.
Yeah.
Diego Moreira, fantastic, unbelievable, Moto2 world champion.
Yes.
Diego Moreira got pushed into MotoGP, but now there's a Brazilian round. So Urta will fund a Brazilian rider to promote a Brazilian round.
Okay.
We don't have a South African round. So that now works against, and then we have negativity against Brad. So it works against it. And we need to create this platform for kids that we don't have just Brad and Darren and Ruche.
Yeah.
You need to have 1 in 10, 15, those Spanish kids. In last week, I think it was, there was a Moto2 rider wanting to step into the MotoGP, and Urta have turned him down because he's Spanish.
Yeah.
And they're going to rather put Senna Agius, because he's Australian, to promote Australia. And that's what it's getting to. So if we don't have 10, 15 South Africans, we're already at a disadvantage being the furthest away from Europe. Those kids live there. So not to hop on, why do I get involved with the kids? I really enjoy it. I enjoy seeing the kids learn. It keeps them disciplined. It keeps them focused, keeps them fit.
Yeah.
So you're teaching them the right
Yeah.
with a dangerous sport.
Yeah.
You know, it teaches them respect. It teaches them to deal with people. They're going to work with teams. So my end goal is to have my own academy.
Okay.
You know, that I can sit and you know, you got these kids training and they want to beat an AJ Fenton. They want to beat Paul Jacobs. And it keeps the positivity out of it, you know.
Last year was your best Northwest 200 year, wasn't it?
Yeah, so
Results
my results, I've only been there twice. Last year was the second year. The TT I've been going to for a couple of years now, and I've never done the Northwest because it's too close to the TT.
Yeah.
So the problem we have coming from South Africa, you work against the British pound. So it's a 25-1 now to leave and road racing. It's not like where we go to Red Star, for example, where we're riding today. 9 o'clock's the first session and 4:30 would be your end of the day. There, it's a public road. So they've got to wait for everybody to go to work. And then when business closes, 5:30, everybody goes home. 6 o'clock, they close the roads. And then you race. Okay. So you're very limited to your track time. And where your delays come in is the weather, British weather. You know, if it rains. The Northwest, we ride in the rain. The TT, you don't. Now, we could be sitting here now and the sun's shining. But in Randburg, there's a thunderstorm. So we'll sit and wait. So your practice gets limited a lot. So your track time gets limited. Now, the other thing they do is they'll give you a 45-minute slot. Now, if you're doing around the TT, you're doing 16 to 20-minute lap times. It's only 2 laps. So it's so crucial to get that bit of setup and qualifying time when you ride.
You know, I did my first social race this year, you know, just
enjoy
for
it?
fun at Great Star. It was a lot of fun. I was scared shitless, but it's my first grid start race and I didn't know what to expect. It was a lot of fun. But anyway, for you as someone that's now, because yes, I did watch your races when you did the Superbike series in South Africa with Alex and all those guys, you know, I watched those races. And for you as a rider, what makes it special? What's the biggest differentiation between for you riding on the track versus the TT?
The challenge.
Okay.
And I'll tell you the challenge because there's a lot more at stake at the TT. And not when I say there's a lot more, not to gain, but there's a lot more to lose. So the margin for error makes it harder. So you got to train. You got to. I like to push things as far as we can. You know, life's a short life, so you got to enjoy it. So you got to, if you get the opportunity, you got to do it. You know, so you can make a mistake at Red Star, but we can't make a mistake on the road. It's not ideal.
Always like
I know what you're
nerve-wracking.
gonna
So, what is the scariest corner for you on the TT?
I think there's 37 miles of scary there. That's the problem. You know, I'll tell you, there is a place where the bottom of Bagara. So you got the top of Bagara, you got the bottom of Bagara. You go through the top of Bagara, you get that 5th gear. Well, 6, you go back to 5th. You turn in and there's a big embankment with a church. And you got to turn, get the throttle open and you got to wheel it. So a lot of the places at the TT, you've got to go through the holes with the front wheel in the air.
Yes.
And it's because when it lands, it bottoms out. Once you go through the top of Bagara, you come down and if you go to YouTube, it's a place to watch.
Mhm.
You got to go into the fence and then you turn and then the road actually drops away from you. There's a stone wall here and there's a drain, there's a hollow.
Yes.
Okay, and
I know.
there's a famous video, and I think it was James Hillier, smacked the sump off.
Yes.
Okay, because of the ground clearance. Now you go through there, and as you turn in, why I say it's a scary corner, you get there so fast, but you've actually got to open the throttle as you turn in, and you've got to drive through it. But because you're going fast, you roll off, and then if you hit that hole on closed throttle, we tuck the front end, and so you've got to try and every lap I go through there, no, and I count down how many left.
Okay.